The average American generates 4.9 pounds of trash per day. That is 3 times the global average of 1.6 pounds. Put another way, the United States has 4% of the world's population, but produces 12% of its garbage. Every year, Americans collectively generate 292 million tons of municipal solid waste. But here's the strange part. Almost none of us have any idea what happens to it. Think about the last time you threw something away. You dropped it in a bin, carried the bag to the curb, and within hours, it vanished. The garbage truck came, the bags disappeared, and that was the end of your relationship with that waste. But it was not the end of the garbage's journey. In fact, it was just the beginning. We are going to follow your trash on its actual path through the American waste system. From the moment it leaves your curb to its final resting place, which might be a landfill cell in your own state or a shipping container bound for Southeast Asia. What you will discover is an invisible infrastructure that most Americans never see. Transfer stations that process over 1,000 tons of waste every single day. Sorting facilities that capture only 21% of recyclable materials. Landfills engineered to last 3 decades, but monitored for 30 years after they close. The gap between what we assume happens to our garbage and what actually happens reveals something uncomfortable about how we consume. Every piece of trash you have ever thrown away still exists somewhere. And following its journey changes how you think about that fact. Your trash begins its journey inside one of the approximately 140,000 refuse trucks operating in the United States. Each truck makes dozens of stops per shift, compacting waste as it goes. By the end of an 8-hour shift, a single truck will have collected around 6.9 tons of waste. But this is just the first leg. The truck does not drive directly to a landfill. Instead, it heads to a transfer station. Transfer stations are the hidden hubs of the waste system. They receive garbage from local collection trucks, consolidate it, and load it onto larger vehicles for long-distance transport. A large transfer station can process over 5,000 tons of waste per day. Even smaller facilities handle 400 to 600 tons daily. King County, Washington alone processes roughly 1 million tons through its transfer station annually. The economics of waste collection demand this consolidation step. On average, trash travels 71 miles from your home to its final destination. But in many regions, that distance is much greater. Trains from the Puente Hills facility in Los Angeles travel 200 miles east to the Mesquite Regional Landfill. New York City's Department of Sanitation trucks logged 14.3 million vehicle miles in a single year to dispose of 3.2 million tons of waste. Researchers mapped 97 different transfer and destination sites in that city's waste export network. The garbage on that journey is no longer your garbage. It has become part of a commodity stream. And what happens next depends entirely on what type of waste it is and how much someone is willing to pay to process it. Here is the uncomfortable truth about American waste. 50% of everything we throw away ends up in landfills. Only 32% gets recycled or composted. And that recycling rate has barely budged in over a decade. The EPA has set a national goal of 50% recycling by 2030. But according to the Recycling Partnership's 2024 report, only 21% of recyclable material actually gets captured. The system collapsed in 2018 when China implemented its national sword policy. Before that year, the United States exported about 1/3 of its recyclables, and China took half of that. In 2016, America shipped 4,000 containers of recyclables to China every single day. After national swords set contamination limits at just 0.5%, that number dropped by 90 to 95%. Today, only about 100 containers ship daily. The impact was immediate and lasting. The quantity of plastic landfilled in the United States increased by 23.2%. Revenues from selling recyclables dropped by 50%. Contamination now costs curbside recycling programs more than $1 billion per year nationwide. And when it comes to plastic specifically, the recycling rate has actually declined. It dropped from 9% in 2018 to just 5% today. Materials recovery facilities, called MRFs, try to sort what arrives. A typical facility captures about 87% of accepted recyclable materials. Steel cans have the highest capture rate at 96%, but film and flexible plastics, only 40%. Contamination rates at these facilities average 15 to 20%. Glass is identified as the worst contaminator because it breaks easily and crushed shards get into bales of other materials. The United States now exports its plastic waste elsewhere. In 2024, America shipped 190 million pounds to Mexico, 83 million to India, and 78 million to Malaysia. But even that option is closing. Starting July 1st, 2025, Malaysia will prohibit plastic waste imports from countries including the United States under new Basel Convention aligned regulations. The 146 million tons of waste that Americans landfill each year do not simply get dumped in a hole. Modern landfills are engineered containment systems. Federal regulations require double liner systems with high-density polyethylene geomembranes at least 60 mils thick. That is about the thickness of a credit card. New York State mandates 80 mil liners underlain by geosynthetic clay. Between the liners sits a leak detection system with a minimum 1% slope and 12 inches of granular drainage material. Above the waste, landfills install gas collection systems to capture methane. Municipal solid waste landfills are the third largest source of human-related methane emissions in the United States, accounting for 14.4% of these emissions in 2022. The EPA assumes collection systems capture 75% of this methane. But a Harvard study published in 2024 found the actual rate is closer to 50%. That same study determined landfill methane emissions are 51% higher than EPA estimates. Food waste drives much of this methane problem. It comprises about 24% of landfilled waste and decays faster than anything else. An estimated 58% of fugitive methane emissions from landfills come specifically from food waste. Yet 61% of methane generated by landfilled food waste is never captured, often because it decomposes before gas collection systems are installed or expanded. What does not decompose is almost everything else. The Garbage Project, a 20-year archaeological study of American landfills led by Professor William Rathje at the University of Arizona, discovered that organic matter does not decompose in landfills. It mummifies. Excavators found perfectly preserved heads of lettuce, 40-year-old hot dogs, and completely legible 50-year-old newspapers. Rathje recovered a 30-year-old newspaper and accompanying hot dog that were, except for faded color, as well preserved as the day they were made. His assessment of biodegradability was blunt. Quote, "Next to Santa Claus, it is the most treasured myth in America today." End quote. Plastic bags take 10 to 1,000 years to decompose. Plastic bottles take 450 years or more. Styrofoam never decomposes. Glass takes up to 1,000,000 years. The landfills designed to contain this waste have an average remaining capacity of 62 years nationally. But 7 states will run out of space within 5 years. The Northeast will lose 30% of its capacity in that same time frame. Landfill disposal fees rose 10% in 2024 alone, reaching a national average of $62.28 per ton. By 2036, the largest landfill in American history will become the largest park in New York City. Fresh Kills on Staten Island received waste from 1948 until 2001. At 2,200 acres, it is 2.5 times the size of Central Park. Today, the first sections are open. North Park Phase 1 opened in October 2023 with wetland overlooks and bird towers. Where gulls once fought over refuse, American kestrels now hunt for prey. The city sells 1.5 million cubic feet of treated biogas from the decomposing waste to the local utility, which distributes it to Staten Island homes for cooking and heating. But Fresh Kills required decades of environmental remediation and will need 30 years of post-closure monitoring after the last section opens. Federal regulations mandate this monitoring period for all closed landfills. Sites must maintain liners, leachate collection systems, and groundwater testing. The EPA lacks technical criteria to define when a landfill is truly stable. Some argue continued monitoring may be appropriate indefinitely. The environmental justice dimension compounds these concerns. 79% of municipal solid waste incinerators are located in environmental justice communities. More than half of all people who live within 3 kilometers of a hazardous waste facility are people of color. The landmark 1987 United Church of Christ study concluded that race was the strongest predictor of hazardous waste site locations. A 2016 study in Environmental Research Letters found this pattern persisted over 30 years. The system is changing, slowly. California requires 30% recycled content in plastic packaging by 2030. The Stewart Act, which passed the Senate in November 2024, would establish grants of up to $15 million for recycling infrastructure in underserved areas. Republic Services plans to make half its new truck purchases electric over the next 5 years. California will require all new trucks sold to be zero emission by 2045. We have traced a single bag of garbage from your curb through every stage of the American waste system. We followed it onto a truck, through a transfer station, past a sorting facility that captured only 21% of recyclables, and into a landfill engineered to contain waste for generations, but monitored for decades after it closes. Every step of this journey reveals infrastructure that most Americans never see and rarely think about. The uncomfortable truth is this: there is no away. When you throw something away, you are simply moving it somewhere else. And that somewhere is a lined cell in the ground, a shipping container bound for Southeast Asia, or increasingly, an overflowing landfill in a community that did not choose to bear that burden. Every piece of trash you have ever thrown away still exists. Understanding where it goes is the first step toward changing what we send there.